Hi, everybody, and welcome back to On the DL. I'm Dana Levinson, and Shai Deluca joins us today. Hello. Hi, Shai.
Hello.
How
Hi,
are
how are
you?
you? I'm good.
I'm
How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I want to tell everybody who you are in case they don't know who you are, but a lot of
Okay.
people know you. You are like interior designer extraordinaire, TV personality, and you have become a tireless advocate and a fellow Jewish warrior. And I am so honored that you've taken this time to talk to me because I know how busy you are. You're trying to change the
I,
world.
I am, but listen, I know how busy you are, so I want to say thank you for taking the time to actually do this with me.
It's beautiful. I have and I'm sure you can attest to this. I have connected with people from all over the world that I never would have connected to prior to the world turning itself upside down.
True.
And that is the silver lining in this horrific world that we are living in. And
Agreed.
I am always so happy to connect with people who are like-minded, who want peace, who want light and love and stop the hate. And I get that from you every time I look at my phone.
Right.
They're shining through. I love it.
Well, I really appreciate that. I appreciate that that comes through. That's certainly, the message that I try to portray is that, we can have peace and we should have peace and we should be striving for peace. That peace doesn't mean that Israel doesn't need to be there or that the Jewish people are not part of it. It
Mhm.
has to include us, but listen, I'm there for it.
What do you feel has been the hardest part for you in this advocacy journey? I know you started your advocacy work many, many, many years ago, even
I
as
did.
back as 2014. But
Yeah.
right now, what is have you felt has been the hardest for you?
I think the hardest for me has been the blatant anti-Semitism in the sense that people are just so overt about it nowadays. When I started back in 2014, at least it was under wraps in a way. I mean, it wasn't so overt, it wasn't so obvious, it wasn't so in your face. Today, nowadays, we see people. We saw in Toronto, there was a video the other day of a man standing on the side of the street at a Palestinian protest, giving the Nazi salute, holding the Palestinian flag, and standing there and just with his hand stretched out like a Nazi salute, and nobody did anything. So for me, I think it's really the acceptance. It's not so much the brazenness, I think, because I think the brazenness has always been there. This is now just giving the people the opportunity to be who they are and let it show. But it's the acceptingness from the general community and the whitewashing of what they're doing. No, it's not that. It's this. Listen, it's a Nazi salute. I can recognize a Nazi salute. No, it's not something else. That's exactly what it is. So why are we talking or making it out to be something that it's not?
Do you feel hurt by the silence? I ask every Jewish person this when they come on the show, because, for
Yeah.
example, like the other day, when again we saw another mob scene in downtown Toronto, and in New York, and in London, and various cities. But this mob scene seems to be the hate and the violence seems to be escalating. Now we're seeing the Nazi salutes, and now we're seeing the suicide bomber costumes. To
Yeah.
me, uh, uh, I just feel Jewish, not Jewish, Christian, not Christian, Muslim, not Muslim, whatever you pray to, or how can you reconcile that kind of hate in a city where you live and you're raising a family and trying to live a life, and the silence? Forget about the October 7th silence and the
Right.
victims, the hostages. Let's just talk about this for a second. The silence about the hate on our streets is making me insane. Insane.
Yeah. You know what? Here's the thing. I mean, 23 years of my life I spent growing up in Israel. I know what this is. I've seen it before. I've seen the hate. I've seen the overt hate. I've seen the attacks on Jews because of who we are. So while I see it here in Toronto, it is not new to me. I understand that to a lot of people in the West, this is a new thing, and they're trying to navigate and figure out how to deal with it.
Mm,
However, the silence is deafening. I mean, there is no better time to, for that saying to be true. The silence is deafening. It is shocking to me to see people who consider themselves to be progressive and well educated and academic and all of the buzzwords that people like to use when they talk about the intelligence in our communities, who are literally remaining silent in the face of what is happening. And I will say this, I when was it? Oh God, the last time I was at Yad Vashem was one of the last tours that I led home. And each time I go to Yad Vashem, I learn something new. The last time I went to Yad Vashem, I stood in front of a wall. That the wall had the names of all of the head leaders of the Nazi movement, certainly like the second and thirds to Hitler, all of which were PhDs, all of which were doctors. So, here's the thing. Does intelligence or does education, negate the fact that people are inherently anti-Semitic or inherently racist? No, you can make anybody can be that. So, am I shocked by it? No. Am I
mm,
shocked by Canadians being silenced about it? Because I mean, I've lived here now since 2011, 2011, and I've known Canadians to be wonderfully welcoming, people who speak up for what's right, people
mhm.
who are on the right side of history, and yet now, for some reason, it's just not happening.
Do you feel confident that it's going to turn around soon?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I hope it turns around soon. I really do. I think it's probably going to get a lot worse before it gets better. That is my honest opinion. I seem to think that in order for it, what we're seeing certainly now in the streets is people pushing the boundaries. Certainly with the police and government, we're really seeing people pushing boundaries that we haven't seen before, saying things that literally are hate speech. And there are hate speech laws here in Canada. For those of people, those people who are watching around the world might not understand that here the laws in Canada are very different from the United States, for example, when it comes to hate speech. We
Mhm.
have hate speech laws here. We have laws that protect us from certain things being said or from certain things being incited or propagated, and yet none of these laws are being adhered to, and none of them are being prosecuted. So I feel as though it's going to get worse before it gets better. Will it get better at some point? Always. I'm an eternal optimist. I
Me
believe
too.
it'll get better. It'll get
Mhm.
better, but I think it's going to get worse before it does.
Why do you think that the laws are not being adhered to? What do you think that's about?
It's interesting you say that, and I can give you a little bit of a kind of like a background information that perhaps not everybody is privy to. I had the opportunity to, and I can't mention names, and I won't mention names because obviously they are government officials, but they are high up government officials that I had the opportunity to meet with while I was in Ottawa, speaking at a conference. And this particular person happened to be somebody who was in the Canadian Security Office. And the meeting itself was off camera. We weren't allowed to record it, and I understood why. However, one of the questions that I asked was, why is nothing being done? And this was October, oh my God, it kind of must have been October 20th something. This is 2, 3 weeks after October 20 something. And his answer to me was, we have given the police, or we have actually authorized the police to take a little bit more than what they're used to because they need to let people breathe or let people let off steam, is the words he used. Now, okay, I get it. Protest, you want to let off steam, but there is a very big difference between letting off steam and what we are seeing today. And I do not know why it is, or what that one point, that breaking point, what that straw that's going to break the camel's back is going to be to say, that's it, no more. Because I'm not
Death.
seeing it.
It's going to be someone's going to die.
You know what? And it might be death, but do I think that they're going to even, do I think that it's going to better the situation for us? I don't think so. And I
God,
think
God,
it
God.
has a lot to do. It has a lot to do. I am not by any stretch of the imagination a pundit when it comes to Canadian politics. I understand what I understand about Canadian politics, and my preview of Canadian politics and kind of my worldview of Canadian politics is very much tied into Israel. So
Same.
everything that I look about when I talk about Canadian politics, it has to do with Israel. But I will say that it has very much to do with the government as well. And I
100%.
understand that there's a election coming up next year. I understand people are pandering for votes. But hey, dead Jews doesn't get you votes, in my opinion. But that's just me.
Shai, I agree with you 100%. I'm no pundit either, but I have become, well, I was always politically well versed because being a news reporter, I had to be,
Sure.
but very unbiased. And no one ever knew in my professional life where I stood politically, ever. I never would let anybody know. Sometimes I'd have some conversations in the newsroom, but never would you know. Most people would say, she's a liberal. 110% people would say to me, of course, she's a liberal.
Yeah.
She loves Trudeau. This is what people think.
Yeah.
And when people ask me today, I have no problem saying this, that the Liberal government took my big, huge liberal heart and smashed it into 1,000 pieces. And the Conservative government is attempting to put it back together.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. From what I understand about Canadian politics, listen, I've never voted in Canadian politics. This will be my first year voting in Canadian politics.
Congratulations.
I can tell you, thank you. I can tell you that I will not be voting for the party who is in power now, because the party who is in power now has literally, on the weekly, put me in danger.
Yes, all of us. And not just Jewish people, Canadians.
Correct.
Canadians are in danger.
Correct.
That's why I'm talking about the bigger picture. Yes, of course, it's personal for me as a Jewish woman. Of course, it's personal for me. But as the bigger picture, it is dangerous. It is embarrassing. It's embarrassing. You know, you have family in Israel. I have friends in Israel. I have friends all over Europe and in the States. And we talk about this constantly. And they're like, what is going on in Canada? I'm like, I don't know.
100%. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I can tell you that all of listen, I don't know about you, but you know, Jews talk about, for those who aren't Jewish who are watching this podcast, Jews have, and we've had over centuries, what we call our exit plans. And our exit plans are, you know, when we live in our host countries or the countries that we're not indigenous to, meaning not Israel, we all have an exit plan in the event that something bad happens. Our exit plan is in place. I can go back to Israel. We bought a condo in Mexico. My family who lives here, who are Canadian, who are not even Israeli, they already have their eyes set on their properties in Florida. I mean, everybody is looking for their exit plan. And I cannot, for the life of me, figure out why it is that this government is not doing more.
It's very, very upsetting. I want to show you a t-shirt. Tell me what you think of this t-shirt. It's my new favorite t-shirt.
Oh, I love it.
I knew you were going to say that. So for people who are not watching, but they're listening, you want to tell everybody what this t-shirt is?
Yeah, so it says, Am Yisrael Chai, the nation of Israel lives, or long live the nation of Israel, and the Israeli flag. I love it.
Isn't that beautiful? So
I love it.
This was gifted to me this week. I had moderated and hosted an event, and someone gave that to me, and I said, I'm going to wear that. And I wore it with so much pride. And I know for someone who's Israeli, this is what's a big deal to wear a t-shirt with an Israeli flag. But for me, as a Canadian woman, born, raised here, of course, I've been to Israel several times. It gave me so much joy to walk out of my front door wearing this and not feeling like I wasn't feeling afraid. I was feeling very proud. Very,
I'll
very
tell you,
proud.
yeah, and I'll tell you something. I mean, I've been back home now since the war 3 times, and I
Mm,
can tell you, I have never, ever, always when I would go home, I would have like, I'd have my Judaica necklaces on or whatever. It's very rare in Israel that people are wearing anything that has to do with Israel or because
yeah,
you're there, you're part of it.
right.
Nowadays, I
Mhm.
have never seen so many Israelis wearing their maps, wearing their shirts, wearing their Israel. It was just, it was such a joy to see. It was so amazing to see because I think what it does is it unifies all of us, both in the diaspora as well as back home in Israel.
I want to ask you about your trips to Israel. You went
Yeah,
shortly after October 7th, correct?
I was there on October 7th, and then I went on October just after October 7th.
You were there?
I was
I'm,
there. Yes,
I,
I was there.
I
I was there for a
apologize.
wedding.
I did not know you were there.
Yeah, I was actually there for a wedding of a dear friend of mine,
Mm,
and we were now. My family's from the south, so the
which part?
the red side, Moshav Zavdiel, which is near Kiryat Malachi, between Kiryat Malachi and Kiryat Gat, about 19-20 kilometers from Ashkelon. Standing on my roof, you can absolutely see Ashkelon. I will say this: we were in Tel Aviv when October 7th happened. Our flight was actually scheduled to come back on the 7th. We woke up to the red sirens, in Tel Aviv. Well, sorry, I shouldn't say we. Ricky woke up. My husband woke up to the red sirens. I sleep right through them. I'm from the south. I'm so used to them already. I don't even hear them anymore. So I'm just used to it. I slept right through it. He woke up in a panic. Our apartment in Tel Aviv is an older apartment and didn't have a bomb shelter in it. So we had to actually run to a bomb shelter. And right away, we could tell something was very different. It was Simchat Torah. Our apartment is in the shuk. It's next to the shuk in Navet Tzedek. Those of you who know Tel Aviv, it's in the southern part of Tel Aviv. Older buildings. We ran out. It was Simchat Torah. All of the people who keep the holiday were running out because they didn't have their phones, looking for people with phones. What was going on? And we were just getting these push notifications to our WhatsApp from numbers that we had no idea what they were. Numbers that were not in our phones, and they were Hamas push notifications of the horrible atrocities that we were seeing, and that everybody ultimately did see, starting from Sderot, from the not tractors, the tenders we call them, the trucks going into Sderot with the Hamas fighters on the back, and it was out of a movie. It was surreal. I was like, this can't be real. This is a joke. This is and it was real.
I've interviewed a lot of people, um, I'd say predominantly from Israel, in Israel
Yeah,
at the moment, or they've come to Canada, but predominantly Israeli.
sure.
And they've all, I mean, the tales from October 7th are beyond, they're
Yeah,
beyond. Um,
yeah,
and you just mentioned Ricky. Is Ricky
yeah.
Israeli?
No, Ricky is a Mexican. He's a Mexican national. He's Mexican.
So
The
he must
biggest
have been
Zion.
flipping out.
He was flipping at. Listen, he is literally the biggest Zionist you'll ever meet. So he has an appreciation and an understanding for the history, and growing up, his family was a very big, very big into history. So they knew of it. They knew my stories. They knew my story in the army. They knew of my stories, though to live it. He's heard it because on my phone here, I have the red alert. So every time a red alert happens back home in Israel, it rings on my phone here just so I know, call my family to make sure everything's okay. He's heard that noise before. He's never seen the commotion that comes with it. And that for him was a wake up call. However, the wake up call was a wake up call which really emboldened him to say, when are we finally leaving Canada and moving to Israel? So,
Oh, wow. Do you think
yeah.
that that might happen for you? You think you might leave?
Oh, it's going to happen. That was always the plan. Canada has been very kind to me and very good to me, and I have been extremely blessed with everything that that I've been able to accomplish here. But at the end of the day, and certainly since October 7th, I've learned that
You want to go
I
home?
hate to say this. This isn't this. It doesn't feel home to me,
No.
and I miss home.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, I'm not from
Yeah,
Israel and I miss home.
yeah, yeah. Well, exactly,
You
exactly
know,
right. I mean,
I aching to go. Um, aching to go. I don't know what my shtick is that I have not gotten on a plane and I haven't gone. Even
yeah,
my husband said, just go yourself. Just go. Don't make it into such a thing. Like he's like, he can't go because of work. He's like, I can't go.
yeah.
The kids are in school. They can't go. Just go.
Whenever you want to go, just tell me. I'll take you.
Ah, please. I'm like, and in May, there were so many missions, and I
Yeah,
don't need to go on a mission, but I did want to work
yeah.
on something very special for Sheba for one of the hospitals.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
And I I don't know, like, Iran shit happened last weekend. I was this close to booking a ticket. Then I
yeah,
said, oh my
yeah,
God, oh my God. And I want to get over my fear because
yeah,
I really need for everything that's been going on in my life and
yeah,
how I have moved from secular to feeling
yeah.
more a part of my community again.
Hmm. Hmm.
I feel like it will come full circle for me to put my feet on the ground, smell that air, and put
It
my
does.
feet on the ground there. I always say that to people when you get off the plane in Israel, you put your feet on the ground because you walk down the stairs. You don't
Yeah.
walking into a terminal, you walk out of the airplane and the smell.
Well, wait. When was the last time you were in Israel?
I'm not going to tell you. You're
Because
going to
we now
flip
have
out.
the we have now the things that connect to the
No,
plane. We
but
don't want.
no, I know they've done that, but I know
Oh,
people that get off the plane and they walk down the
yes.
steps. They're not going into the terminal. They are actually, it's been too long. I don't even want to tell you.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
want to know
yeah.
the, do you want to know the truth? Because we're having a real
Yeah,
talk here. And I
yeah,
keep
yeah.
forgetting that we're actually doing a podcast here. I feel like I'm having a coffee with you. I swear to you,
Yes.
this is what I wanted, Shai. I wanted to just hang out with you
I
and have a
love
coffee for
this.
so long.
I
Um,
love it.
my first love is in Israel.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. And I was going to make Aliyah. I mean, it was all part of the plan, finish my undergraduate degree
yeah,
to Israel. My family
yeah,
knew. My sister was a
yeah,
Tel Aviv. Like it was
yeah.
all a plan. Anyway,
Never
uh
too late.
no, no. Well, I'm madly in love with my husband and I want to stay here with him. Although he loves
He can
Israel too.
go.
Well, he
I
did
was gonna say he can go.
no, no, no. He did a medical residency there also. He was at
Okay.
Tel Shemer, I think he was there for a
Yeah,
while.
Teleshomer. Yep.
Yeah, one of the hospitals.
Amazing.
Amazing. But the Gulf War happened, which is a
Yeah.
gazillion years ago. And I
Yeah.
was very, very, very young. I don't
Yeah.
18, 19 years old. And
Yeah.
I was like, I can't go. I was fearful. And I feel
I
that fear
understand that.
back now. And I wanted to go away. I want to go
I,
back.
I understand that. You know what? This last mission that I was on, I was
Yes. Tell
invited
me.
to go with Shai Deluca, which
Mm.
is a hospital in Jerusalem, which is one of the most. Their story is just phenomenal. But that aside, um, on the trip were Jews and non-Jews alike, and there was this one couple from. Oh my God, I'm going to get it wrong. I always get the state wrong. It's not Arkansas, it's Tennessee. Tennessee.
Nebraska?
They're from
Oh,
Tennessee. No,
okay.
Tennessee. They're from Tennessee.
Sorry,
Tennessee.
everyone.
Yeah, and they and I said to them, because while we were there, there was again the air of something might happen, something, and they both said to me, we have never felt as safe as we do right now
Mm.
than and any time during a wartime, whether in the U.S. or him being deployed in other places. It was never. There's a thing about Israel, and I say this often to people who say to me, "Is it safe to go now?"
Well, yeah.
Sadly, and I know this is a sad thing to say, but I guess it's kind of neither here nor there. Israel is always the safest during a threat because it is such on high, the country is on such high alert that nothing is going to happen when the country is on high alert. It's when it is lackadaisical and like we think everything's okay. That's when maybe something might happen, but certainly not now. Certainly not in times of war. And so, if you're looking to go, now's the time.
Okay. I'm going to tell my family tonight at dinner. Okay, everyone, I
Yes,
have an
ma'am.
announcement. This is what I'm
Yes.
thinking. Um, I want to shift gears a bit
Yeah.
and ask you, and let's talk a little bit about Ricky as well, because he's a part
Yeah.
of your life, obviously.
Yeah.
How upset have you been with the LGBTQ community?
Oh my goodness. I mean, listen, the entire Queers for Palestine whatever thing, I mean, from the beginning to me was the biggest joke on the face of the earth because what are you for? Are you for a country that literally wants to take away your rights? Are you for a country that I myself, Shai Deluca, I myself have worked with Palestinians who have escaped from Gaza or escaped from the West Bank, and we have helped them acclimate or find a third country to go to get out of their situation because of in Gaza, their government sanctioned murders of LGBT people, or in the West Bank, at the very minimal, their families can kill them without anything, without any law, coming after them afterwards. And so, what exactly are you advocating for? When I was in Jerusalem, when was it? 2 weeks ago, Pride Toronto came out with this ridiculous statement
Yes.
about ridiculous statement about what their thoughts are and what their feelings are, and I read this entire long 3-page statement, and at the very very end, one line reminding us about the hostages. And in my video I said, well, thank you so much, Pride Toronto, for remembering why Israel is fighting this war, remembering that there are 133 people there, remembering that you are fighting for a place and a government that, if you walked over that border, would hang you or drag you behind a motorbike until you were dead, which we've seen before. So, what exactly are you advocating for? Are you advocating for LGBT rights, or are you advocating for LGBT rights because it is a way in which to smokescreen your anti Semitism?
Or is it so in vogue to be anti-Israel, anti-Jewish right now that these, I guess, they feel they're marginalized in a way that they have to put up this front? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. Also, with the feminists, it makes no sense to me. I'm a
I don't
feminist.
know.
I don't
Yep.
get it. It makes no
I'm a
sense.
I am a 100% feminist. Listen, there is a, I'm not going to mention her name on here. You know her. I know her. I think you and Jill have spoken about her. A journalist, or she was a journalist in past, who has come onto X and called me every name in the book because I dare to share the stories of Israeli women who, have been sexually violated both on October 7th and following October 7th. Uh, and nothing. And I went back in her feed and I went back to read nothing, not a word about anything that happened to any Israeli women before October 7th, since October 7th, or after October 7th. So your faux progressivism, or your faux activism, or your whatever it is you want to call it, is just that. It's faux, it's phony, it's annoying. All it is to me is a smokescreen. Listen, in my opinion, all of these newly found activists, whether they are feminists, whether they are LGBT activists, whether whatever, is a new way to say, hey, I'm an activist, but behind my mask, I'm just an anti Semite. So here's my mask as my activist, but just let that mask move away. And really, what's behind it is anti Semitism.
So how do we fight that?
We expose it. And that's what I do. I expose it. That mask can't stay on. Listen, there's a reason that at every one of these marches, these students we see are covering their faces, because they know very well that they are going to either be expelled, lose their jobs, not get job offers, have job offers pulled, which has happened. And I think that this is the way to do it. We need to expose them. Now, of course, they cry and whine about, oh, it's not fair. You're doxing us. You're nobody's doxing you. I'm not saying where you live. I'm not telling your phone number. I don't care about any of that. I just want people to see who you are. I want people to see who is behind that mask. And if you're so proud of what you're doing, Why are you hiding? Be
I agree
proud.
with you. I agree with you. And I also I want to hit on that point that you just said about so-called journalists who have this really upset me at the beginning of all this was they were kind of hiding behind this veil of, well, I'm not posting or saying anything. I'm just reposting. Well, reposting usually intimates that you agree with it unless you're saying this is
Right,
crazy. You comment on it. And I
right,
started to see quite a bit of that very early days, very early days where
right.
my mouth was hanging open. And I thought, A, these are people that I know who I thought I really liked and respected. These are people I've worked with.
Yep.
And I I don't even have words for it. I don't even have words for it.
Yeah.
It was so beyond,
Hmm.
beyond what I was seeing.
Yeah.
I can't even, you can imagine. I don't speak to
It,
any of
it,
them anymore. None.
it's on. Listen, I like you, like probably 99% of the Jews in the world. Excuse me, have lost friends. And
Mhm.
you know what I say? Good riddance, because those were never friends to begin with. I will not mention a name, although you know who it is. There was a person that I worked with on television who, while I was literally on air on a commercial break, I got a message from a viewer, and the message from that viewer was a screenshot of a like of a post that particular person that I worked on television with liked, which said, and I'm paraphrasing. I can pull up the tweet at some point. Or sorry, it was an Instagram message. Um, a slaughter is not a slaughter if the people who are slaughtered deserve it. And yeah, and I literally was like on commercial break, and I was like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do because what do you do in that situation? In the end, those of you who don't know, those of you who maybe do know, I've made a move. I've made a move from one station. I'm over at another station. I am on the morning show now on Global. Love them. They're
I know,
absolutely
love them.
phenomenal.
They're
Yeah, I know
so
you love
lovely. They're such lovely humans over at Global.
love
I
them.
know that.
Love
And
them.
and again, I haven't worked with any of
Yeah.
them, but I've loved them from afar. I think they're
But I
fab.
know that you went to school with one of them. I'm not going to mention his name. And I know you went. Yeah, you are.
Wow.
MN.
What?
MN. MN is his initials. I don't want to say his name. I'll tell you after.
Okay. I'm gonna think about it. But
Yeah.
I, okay, I'm not gonna name the person who you're talking about in
Yeah.
this specific tweet because I don't like to, I don't want to, I don't want
Yeah.
to do it to people. I just
No.
love the real talk. So if you mentioned her
Yeah.
name, I'd say, okay, but okay, here's the thing.
No need to mention a name.
I also saw a lot of the stuff that she was posting on Instagram
Yeah.
and on Twitter about, sorry, X, um, in regards to the slaughter and the terrorism and the death and destruction and all that stuff on October 7th. And that was very upsetting to me. Um, like so much that I cried because I know that she's such a big following and her TV show was so popular. And I
Yeah.
cried. I wanted to reach out to her and say, like, as a Jewish woman, can I talk to you about this? Like, I just want you to know, like, I have friends and family in Israel.
Yeah.
And then I remembered you, that you work on that show. I would have been devastated, but you left. So
I
good for
I
you.
listen, I left. I left because of a couple of reasons. I left because a physically it was getting too much for me. I mean, it literally, like, it gave me another ulcer. I already had one, so it gave me two.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
had another one, but I literally mourned the loss of a friend because I considered her to be a good friend,
That's
a
sad.
really good friend.
Yeah, that's sad.
And I don't want to get emotional now talking about it because I loved her, and I am so disappointed in the way that it kind of transpired. But you know what? Like I say, true people, the true colors of people always come out in the end. And sadly, it took this to happen, and I mourn the loss of our friendship. I wish her well in everything that she does. And I want to make that clear. I wish her well in everything that she does, but I hope that she takes maybe the opportunity to say, "Hey, I lost a friend for what did I do again? And why is it? And why is it that you never, ever picked up a phone and said,
No.
'Hey, we're friends. Can we talk about this?
Yeah, and
Or
we're
is there something you want to
Canadian.
talk?'"
I know. So you're Israeli, but I want to tell you, but the people that are Canadian freaked me out, never picked up a phone and said, I know you have friends and family in Israel. Is everybody okay?
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
one, not one, not one.
yeah,
A
yeah,
couple of past coworkers sent me some messages. Hope everybody's okay. Hope, that I
yeah,
appreciate so much. But you're not the only one. I have
yeah,
friends who in media,
yeah.
friends with high profile people doing the same
Right,
thing as what you're talking about, and
right.
never had the conversation. It's okay to have a political view. It's okay not to agree.
A hundred
Absolutely.
percent.
That is our right as Canadians. We get to
Yes,
say and feel and be and all
yes,
that. It's fabulous. But
yes.
when you know that a people, an entire race is at risk, is at
Yeah,
jeopardy, has just come out of a very tragic, horrific event, to
yeah,
be spewing the hate back in our face is
yeah.
very, 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 very hurtful.
It was. It was hurtful, and it was a wake up call. It
Yes.
was a wake up call because I think now, you know what it did is it made me very jaded. I used to be, and I always was, for better or for worse, I was the person who it didn't matter who you were. I would always find something about you that I liked, and
Wow.
that would be what I would stick to. You could have been the worst person in the world, and if you were like kind to me at one point, that's just who I am. My grandmother always taught me, always, and it sticks in my mind, always find the good in people. Everybody has some good in them, and that's how I grew up, and I always found the good in people. And it hurt me because we worked so long for so many years together, and never once did you think to say, "Hey, maybe you can give me an alternate, viewpoint, or you're from there. Let me hear what you have
Yeah,
to say."
because you're not just Jewish, you're Israeli.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you could have
you
had
know,
your
yeah,
closest friends and family killed that day. It's like saying
yeah,
to someone on 9/11 whose
yeah,
family, who have friends and family that lived in New York, you could have had your family work in the World Trade Center. My sister
exactly right.
worked at the World Trade Center.
My God,
She worked at the World
crazy,
Trade Center. Do you know how many phone calls I got that day? I can't even tell you. I couldn't even
crazy,
stop. Now,
crazy.
she wasn't working that day.
Yeah, well, thank God.
That day. Okay. So, but what I'm saying is, like, can you imagine? Like, it's so mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
Um, it's so mind-boggling to me, and I love so much that you post rigorously. Like, you don't shy away.
I
Sorry, shy.
don't. Yeah,
Now,
no, I don't.
you do not shy away from it, and you post it. You just keep going and going, and you keep saying it because it's really important. It's really important because it's a source of education, right? But it
Yes.
is
It it's a
coming from
source of
you. It's
well, it's
important.
a source of education, and I think that also because of what I do in the industry that I come from, unlike you, am not a journalist. I'm a lifestyle presenter. So I my whole life have presented fashion and lifestyle and like the fun things. And my audience is not necessarily the audience that would be watching you, for example, which is the news cat, like somebody who is into the news, into the nitty gritty.
Facts.
And
Facts.
and I facts. And I wanted my audience to say, okay, hold on. Now I understand that, you know what? There is something so life changing in Shai's life that he is now completely 100% changed his social media platform to concentrate just on this. Why is it? It is because it is that important. It to me is existential.
I bravo to you and thank you for it because it's really incredible. I see also sometimes you pull in a lot of your personal stuff, which
Yeah,
it's important because when we're trying to tell a story, fortunately and unfortunately, in this world of social media, people are drawn to the anecdotes, right? They want to
Yeah,
know. They want to know. You want to talk about an anti-Semitic experience or something that's just happened on the streets outside of your home or
yeah,
wherever. But
right,
part of that is knowing what I had for breakfast. Like
right.
I'm just saying that's just part of this.
Yeah, people want to know you're a real person.
Yes. And so I love that you still bring us into your life.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, but there is also a part of your life that, I did a little digging.
Yeah.
And there's a part of your life that a lot of people, don't know necessarily just by scrolling or just by having a conversation with you. Is that,
Ooh,
yes,
what
of
part of
course.
what part is that?
No. So I know, no. I'm going to bring a little Barbara Walters out
Little
here,
Barbara Walters.
a
Okay,
little
let's
Wawa
do
here. But
it.
so everyone knows you're Israeli,
No.
but people don't know a lot about your life, what your life was like there before you left. And your dedication and your life to Israel was not just a new thing like this,
Yeah,
you were there.
yeah.
Maybe, if you will, maybe tell us how you got your name.
Sure. So my full name is Yoshua Yaakov Shai Simcha. Okay. Now,
Yaakov. I
I Yoshua Yaakov Shai Simcha. Now, listen, I am not religious by any stretch of the imagination, but I am a firstborn male in my family. So, as you know, firstborn males in Judaism, for those of you who don't know, we tend to get lobbed on all of the names of the people who died,
didn't.
and
It's
we
true. Oh
get them
my
all.
God. Yes.
So we did, yeah. So anyway, my name Shai means gift. Specifically, Shai means gift. Now, when I became 18 and was old enough to say, "Hi, I'm not religious. I'm taking all of those names off." Shai was the one name that I kept. But so when I was in the army, I in 1990. Oh, I'm going to age myself now. In 1996, I was in basic training, and I had gone to a friend of mine who his parents were he had not, he was like in my grade, but a couple months younger than me, so he hadn't gone into the army quite yet. He was in the next thing to go into the army, and his parents were like, "Listen, why don't you come over for Shabbat? You'll be for Shabbat. We'll do." His mom was so kind to me. She was like, "I'll do your laundry. I'll send you, I'll send you lunch on Sunday." I was like, "Okay, win-win." I was like, "Yeah, for sure." And I went over to her house, and that Sunday morning, uh, in 1996, we didn't have well, we had cell phones, but we didn't have iPhones that had GPSs and that had you could tell where you were. So where you were, or where I was in Jerusalem, I'm not a Jerusalemite by any stretch of the imagination. I've probably been to Jerusalem as many times as people here in Canada have been to Ottawa. and and probably now in the last little bit with all these missions that I'm doing, I've been more. But up until that point, I had never been to Jerusalem many times. And I ran out of the house, and it was basic training. And during your basic training, the one thing that you need to know in basic training is you must get there on time, because if you are not at your base on time, the next week, the worst thing in the world happens to you. You have to stay for Shabbat, which, when your entire, like, all of your freedom is taken away at 18 and you can't just do whatever you want, going home that weekend is literally all you're thinking about that entire week. So I was, I had gone downstairs, and his mom had explained to me, "Listen, you need to go here to catch this bus and you'll go wherever." Of course, I got lost because my sense of direction is
Mm.
zero. In Toronto, if I can't see the CN Tower, I don't know where I am. So that is my sense of direction.
That's
Um,
amazing.
yeah,
So
my
you
sense
tell
of
our
direction.
you tell our kids when they're little, if you get lost, look up and see if you can see the CN Tower. Oh, that's
That's
hysterical.
literally, if I can't see it, I don't know where I am. So anyway, so bad sense of direction. She was telling me where to go to, couldn't figure it out. Anyway, I found this one person. I was like, "Can you help me? I need to get to this bus." She was like, "This is the bus you need to get to. It's just about to leave. Run after the bus." I ran after the bus. I hit the back of the bus, and I'm like, "Stop, stop, 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 stop." And I'm like, "Oh," cursed him because he didn't stop. 100 meters in front of me, the bus blew up. And that for me was an awakening moment. It was a moment that completely woke me up, in the sense that for a number of reasons. Oh my God, had I had a better sense of direction, with thank God I didn't, I wouldn't be here today. B, if I would have run a little faster, I wouldn't have been here today. But C, nobody knew. Had I been on that bus, had I been 10 seconds faster, nobody would have known who Shai was. Nobody would have known about me at all. And that is one of the stories when I decided that I was going to come out. So that's how I came out, and that's when I decided I was going to come out, because I was like, you know what? I thought I was a pretty good guy, and I was like, you know what? Had I something happened to me, my parents wouldn't have known, my family wouldn't have known, my friends wouldn't have known. But on top of that, I went to my family in Israel are, I know you can't tell, but are shusnikim. So for those who don't know who are shusnikim, they're like the black hats, they're the Sephardi Mizrahi, like religious,
Very religious, religious. Yeah.
very
Mhm.
religious. And I went to a rabbi who said to me, listen, all of these names that you were given were numerologically were a bad omen on you. Shai is the right one to have kept. That's the one that you should have. That's the one that you will keep. That's the one that saved you. So he was like, anyway, so that's the name that you should keep. That's the name you should have. That is why I completely took all the other ones off, in addition to the fact that I didn't want to sound like I was a religious person. But other than that, it was yeah, that's why I keep the name Shai, and that's why the name is so important to me.
And Deluca, is that your real last name?
So Deluca is my real last name. I know people always ask me that. Deluca is my real last name. So yes, so my dad is a Sephardi Jew. He's actually a Marano Jew. For those who don't know what Marano Jews are Jews who were expelled from Spain in 1492. His family had to relocate and hide in what was then the Kingdom of Sicily. So Italy used to be split. It used to be the northern, I guess, was Italy, and the southern was the Kingdom of Sicily. His family ended up in Calabria, Italy,
Oh,
and yeah, in Calabria, Italy. And yeah, and it's interesting because we did our DNA, and the way that we found this out is we did our DNA. We always knew what my mom's side of the family was, but we never knew what my dad's side of the family was. And we were like, well, it's so interesting. Let's find it out. My dad always wanted to know. So we did it, and it came back like 93% Jewish. And we were like, that can't be right. So he's like, that must be a mistake. So we did it again, because my dad, born in Calabria, Italy, was born into a Catholic family, or what he thought was a Catholic family. And
wow.
yeah,
Wow.
and I know. And so 92%, then we did it again, and then it came back again. It was also like 93.7%. It was like even higher. So I called my dad, and I was like, I need to tell you something.
Abba, something's wrong.
Alma, something's wrong. And
Something's
I
very wrong.
told him, but you know what? I have to say, it was one of the most emotional moments for my dad, because if you ask my dad, God bless my dad, I love my dad. If you ask my dad the story of when his family left Italy and came to Toronto, and their very first house that they ever lived in was in Kensington Market. And Kensington Market used to be a very predominantly Jewish area. And there was a mezuzah on the door. And my grandfather, for whatever reason, was like, do not take that off. It needs to stay on the door. And he wasn't quite sure why. Now, keeping in mind, 93% means that both of my grandparents on my dad's side would have had to come from Jewish heritage. So what we later found out, we did like a history trip, and what we later found out is that Jews of those times, who, especially after the Spanish Inquisition, and they found them places wherever they were, lived in close-knit communities. And even though they had to adopt, oh, I don't know what happened here. I'm so sorry.
Okay. I
Can
can
you see
still
me?
hear you.
Sorry. There we go. Had to adopt local sounding last names in order to hide their identity. They kept very close to one another in terms of proximity. So families married families. Like, you knew that family from neighborhood A could marry family from neighborhood B, family from neighborhood B could marry family from neighborhood C, but they never understood why. And the reason was obviously more so genetic than anything else, but they also understood they wanted to keep it within the Jewish community. So that is why my last name is Deluca. Now, when my dad had to do a legal conversion because even though he is Marano Jewish ethnically, when he married my mom, he had to actually do a halacha conversion because I guess for whatever reason,
Wow.
ethnic. Yeah. So yeah, at 25, yes, he did. So
Wow.
he did the whole halacha conversion, and the rabbi said to him, "Hey, you should consider changing your last name to something like Lukowitz." And my dad was like, "Why would I change my name to an Ashkenazi last name? I don't want to do that. I want my name to be what I wanted, my last name first of all." And all the years later, when we found out the story that we found out who my dad was and where he came from, and all of that. And he said to me, he was like, "This is part of our heritage." He was like, "I'm so glad we didn't change our last name because it tells
Yeah.
a story. It tells a story of us. It tells the Jewish story, a Jewish story that a lot of people don't know about because here in North America, we are so used to the Ashkenazi story. We're so used to the European story. We don't know a lot about the Sephardi story. And for
No.
him, it was so important to keep. So I am so proud of it. And
Oh,
yeah,
I'm so grateful you just shared that with me and
yeah,
everybody, because that's a beautiful story. And
yeah.
it does speak volumes about the global Jewish community and our heritage and how far reaching it is. And we're not all white from Europe, you know? So,
Well, none of us are white from Europe. We are all, some of us might be white passing or white adjacent. And I think that that's one of the things also
I
that a lot
know,
of the people here struggle with
I
is
know.
everybody wants to fit Jews into the North American racial construct. And we have to understand Jews lived long before the North American racial construct, which is completely racist, and will live long after the North American racial construct. So, boo to you,
Amen.
North American racial construct.
I I love talking to you. I knew I was going to love talking to you.
I love talking to you too.
I wish we could have done a show together back in the day. Wish you could, but you never know. You never know what could happen now. But I'm saying, I really,
True.
actually, you never know. You never know. But
Never.
we would have had incredible chemistry.
I agree.
For sure we would have.
I
But
agree.
I want to tell everybody where they can find you because they probably just
Yes.
fell a little bit more in love with you. So where can everyone find you on TV, on socials? Tell us.
Everyone can find me on TV on the morning show on Globals every Thursday or Friday, usually talking about design. And then also on my social media. My best social media is Instagram at Shai Deluca.
And if people are interested in design and they want to talk to you about interior design, where do they find you?
Yes, ma'am. At Shai Deluca or ShaiDeluca.com.
Yeah, and your stuff is gorgeous. So I know we were talking a
Thank
lot about
you.
advocacy and the state of the world,
Thank
which I
you.
appreciate, but we can't forget about your talent because
Thank
you're
you.
unbelievable. You're absolutely unbelievable. So
Thank you so
I want to put
much.
that out there too. Thank you so much for speaking with me for so long. I could just go on for hours. I could go make another cup of coffee and just sit
Is
here
the
with
hour over? Oh my God, that went
you.
by
It
so
is.
fast. I didn't even
You're
know.
fabulous. You're so
So are
fabulous.
you. So
Keep
are
doing
you.
everything that you're doing.
And
And
you.
this is Basheret. I know it for sure.
Yes.
I
Yes.
feel it. If you don't know what Basheret means and you're listening and watching this, please go look it up because I don't want to spoil the fun of it. But
All right, don't spoil
then
it.
Basheret. And I'm wishing a very happy and healthy Passover, Chag Sameach, to you and
Chag
your family.
Sameach, Chag Kasher v'Sameach to you and to all of your family. And
Thank
I
you.
love you.
Eza Yofi. Thank you so much, Shai. Be well. Thanks,
Thank
everybody. We'll
you.
catch you next time on the DL. Thanks for listening.